watching America Trends. I'm Mary Burke Godwin. And you know, in the business world, especially I would say recently, the topic of diversity, equity, and inclusion is at the forefront and or should be, if it's not, in business owners' minds and coworkers, frankly, for that matter. So I'm very excited to introduce you to our next guest. Her name is Tyko. She's a disability advocate and project manager at Bona Fide Conglomerate. They are a nonprofit agency dedicated to the training and employment of those with disabilities through the AbilityOne program and private commercial partners. Welcome to the show, Tina. So nice to meet you.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate what you're doing and what your company, Bona Fide Conglomerate, is doing to bring this to the forefront and educate coworkers and business owners and people that really need to have this in the forefront of their mind. And you know, in the commercial break, I will just say, I said diversity and inclusion, and you corrected me or educated me to include the word equity.
Correct.
And then what else were you going to say there too?
And I like to add the A for ability, because the people with developmental disabilities, especially in the disability field, they get discriminated against because people think that they don't have the ability to do what they want. So when we're talking about DE&I, diversity, equity, and inclusion, it's good to add that A at the end, just my own thing, because of the ability of the people with developmental disabilities.
Okay, and you know, I don't know if I'm speaking out of turn here, but it's a topic that seems to be sensitive, and I feel like people, the education portion of this, I feel like is very important, because I may not feel as educated on the subject, so I don't really want to talk about it because it makes me feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But if I just talk about it and then get to understand the words and the ways that I can help, which is one of the reasons why I have you on the show, because I really think it's important for business owners and coworkers to know how they can help and be an advocate for this mission.
Definitely.
So tell me about Bona Fide Conglomerate and how it started. BonaFideCGLM.com, by the way. Right. So tell me how it got started and how you started working with them.
So I started with them in 2012. I've been in the human services field most of my adult life, working with the developmentally disabled. And I started with Bona Fide in 2012. I run a contract up in the North Bay of California in Santa Rosa, and we are a government agency. Okay. So with the help of AbilityOne and Bona Fide, we find projects with government agencies that allow us to hire a certain percentage of people with developmental disabilities or disabilities of any type.
Well, and I haven't heard of AbilityOne program before.
So that is an agency that is governed with, or is with the federal government.
Okay.
Basically, federal properties throughout the nation are supposed to be hiring a certain number of people with disabilities. And so Bona Fide works closely with them.
Okay, great. And Bona Fide is a nonprofit organization.
Yes.
And can people hire you or hire somebody from your organization to come into their workplace and help do a training or educate people?
Definitely,
yeah.
Yes. We find individuals that are willing to work and that want to work within different jobs in the community. Specifically right now we're with contracts with the federal government. But yeah, we do educate all of the employees and employers, potential employers that we talk to about the agency and how to get people with disabilities. Yeah.
And what does it mean to be an advocate? Disability, I mean, I'm not even sure the term here, but you'd want to be an advocate for DE&I, right?
Yeah, so a disability advocate is someone who's going to stand beside a group or an individual and kind of help them find their voice to be able to express what it is that they want, their needs, their concerns over any given situation, help with laws and rights that are going on in our country.
Wow. And would you want to have that within your business? Is it like part of an HR department, or is it somebody that an advocate would work for in your company and then be hired by another business?
So a disability advocate really could be anybody. I mean, that could be also a workplace advocate, someone who, you don't necessarily have to have the experience working with people with disabilities, but you kind of need to have some knowledge of the laws and the rights under the ADA. But you could also just, maybe you've had somebody who in your family who had a disability of some sort, and you kind of knew how things worked for them. And so you can become your own disability advocate, especially in the workplace.
Yeah, I think that's really important, especially like you said, if you've had experience in your home with a sibling maybe or something like that, then you can speak from experience and know, the things you'd want to bring to the situation. Which brings me to, tips on being inclusive and tips you can, for people that are in the workplace and have some people with disabilities in the workplace to make them feel included and make them feel maybe not left out.
You could talk to them just like you and I are talking. A lot of times they do feel left out because they aren't included in the conversations that are going on within the workplace. They're isolated. Maybe their workstation is 3 doors away from where everybody else is. Patience is really key because a lot of people, especially with developmental disabilities, really do need that patience and, just the kindness and just treat them like anybody else. That's all they want as far as inclusion.
And then what about, business owners? What are things, you just mentioned maybe their office is 3 doors down. Is that something to keep in mind as to maybe you don't need to put them in the corner or, where you place them? Are there things that business owners should keep in mind?
Definitely. You don't want to exclude them. You don't want them to not feel a part of the workforce and the business that they're working for. There are a lot of things that employers can do to make it very easy to hire people with disabilities. You can just as easily stack the office supplies in the same place in the same order and never change that. Somebody that is having a vision impairment, you could make a bright colored keyboard for them to type on. There's a lot of things that employers can do to make the workplace a more inclusive environment for someone with a disability.
And the word disability, what is it? It can cover such a wide range of situations, right? I mean, you're mentioning maybe someone who has vision impairment. Can it be hearing impairment? It could be physical disability, right?
Yeah,
what are the different things that it can include?
Yeah, it can be vision, hearing, it can be physical, it could be a developmental, even mental, some types of mental illness can fall underneath that. Yes, it's definitely. There's a lot.
How is there a program? Do you also help people with disabilities find jobs?
Yes,
at Bona Fide?
definitely. Yes, we work with AbilityOne to help them find safe places to work where they are included within the workforce.
Kind of like a matchmaker a little bit.
Exactly.
Companies come to you if they want to hire people with disabilities,
Yes.
and then you also have people with disabilities saying, "Help me find work."
Exactly.
That's perfect.
Yeah, and through education and on-the-site job training, we can find anybody a job anywhere as long as an employer is willing to hire them.
And are there other legal steps or any other things that business owners should know, in this world to help them if they really want to be inclusive? What are some of the other tips for them?
There's a lot of things that employers are afraid of. They're afraid of an employee not fitting in. They're afraid of them not having the ability to do the job. And that's not the case at all. Anybody with a disability, whether it be a developmental disability, someone who is severely blind, who has a hearing impairment, can work. And an employer can very easily make a reasonable accommodation. And accommodations don't have to be as big as a wheelchair ramp or, an accessible bathroom. It can be very small, and any employer can make anybody able to work in their environment.
Don't they need to have that by law anyway?
They should.
I mean, I thought ADA rules are pretty strict on that, or maybe at least in California. I mean, as far as I'm aware, it's pretty strict at workplaces.
There are
And
big businesses, but a lot of the little businesses don't have that.
A lot of don't have that. In fact, I just was at a hotel recently that didn't have an elevator to get to the second story, and we had to move out because one of our band members has a disability, couldn't walk up the stairs. He was temporarily disabled. But anyway, well, thank you so much for being here, Tina. So people can find you at Bona Fide, CGLM.org. Bona Fide. I keep saying Bona Fide, but Bona Fide. CGLM.org. And this is just an incredible organization that you have, and I really appreciate your time and talking to us about this.
Thank you for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Yep, this is great. And everyone at home, stick around. We've got more America Trends right after this. You can find us on America Trends TV on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And we'll be right back right after this.